With that, we'll start with the first panel. The first panel will address the question about the threats. So I would like to invite the moderator, Dr. Dorit, the co-founder of Qbeat Ventures, to invite John Yeoh, the Chief Scientific Officer of the Cloud Alliance of the CSA, David Stender, the Executive VP, CISO, and Head of Non-Financial Research at BankUnited, Yuval Sinay, the Head of the ACD Department in INCD, and Ofir Yosef, the Technical Advisor to the DDR&D.
I'm going to organize you to sit by the names. Thank you very much, Yaniv. Thank you, everyone. Very good. We are here to start, so we will take like a short intro for each one of you. So, John, why don't you start?
Hey, everybody. My name is John Yeoh. I'm the Chief Scientific Officer at an organization called CSA. And it's pretty cool what we do there is we build all the security criteria that goes into building products in the cloud and now AI as well. I work with the public and private sector on creating security, awareness, and education on quantum safe security. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
David.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is David Stender. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer and the Head of Non-Financial Risks. So that's like a BSA, AML, fraud, compliance, operational and enterprise risk. My background is primarily NSA. I am a trained cryptologist. I've been working at it not quite as long as Martin, but almost 50 years now, coming up on it.
Yuval.
Okay, good afternoon to you. My name is Yuval Sinay. I currently serve as the head of Active Cyber Defense Department at Israel National Cyber Directorate. Previously, as the head of methodology in INCD, I collaborated with cybersecurity experts to write and develop best practices for organization in a cyber realm, so they can defend themselves. In addition, I'm a student in PhD in the national security and cyber.
Ofir.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So in my academic life, I'm a PhD candidate in quantum communication in the University of Haifa. And in my professional life, I consult different defense-related organizations in terms of security, one of them being quantum safety in a broad area. Here it's mentioned the DDR&D.
Excellent. So introducing myself, this is like an intersection of everything I did in life. I have a PhD in computer science. I have experience in crypto, in cyber. I changed the crypto in Checkpoint maybe 30 times in the past for things that got broken. So crypto agility is not something new. And doing quantum today, most of my passion on quantum is doing good stuff and not just breaking crypto, but this is what we will discuss today. So Yuval, I want you to open with what's the problem, what's the safety challenge, what are we trying to solve?
Okay, from my perspective, we can divide this challenge into three pillars, like in the army practice, yes, good job. Okay, we can talk about the enterprise level, organization level in practice. So the enterprise level is very challenging in the face of the current issue that the organization using cryptography to sign documents, on software, coding, using digital authentication, by using smart card, etc. This is exposed to a future risk that quantum computing can break RSA and other algorithms that based our security on these options. This also breaks down another very known mechanism called root of trust that we secure our firmware and software in practice. In the national level, it's a bit more challenging because for our understanding, attacker usually record traffic, try to obtain secret, like hard disk of a quick drive of laptop that someone left outside, and then in the future, we would use it and break it down. This we usually call in the market something like RS9 encrypt later. But in practice, there's also copy now and then decrypt later in the static file. And another challenge is in the much more future and is depend on what is the quantum capability practice will be due. It will be the combination of quantum computing, AI and traditional computing. Because by using this combination, advisory in the cyberspace can use it to initiate advanced swarm-based attack and may paradise states.
Thank you. So John, we often talk like encryption and crypto, other kind of like more special crypto situation you are concerned with or you are looking at?
Yeah, when I think about it, I just think about everything that I can break, right? And so if you think about where public key infrastructure is, it's everywhere. It's how we interact with websites. It's how we interact with communications, right? Email, WhatsApp, iMessages, even Signal, all the way into how we even sign software. So all of our software handshakes that we have, these are all signed and digital signatures that are impacted by, will be impacted by quantum. And so, you know, Professor Hellman even mentioned, you know, trillions of dollars are kind of at stake here. And I don't know if anybody plays in the cryptocurrency space too, but even blockchain. I mean, these things are all going to be broken or impacted.
Yeah, maybe also the wallet authentication, not necessarily the crypto proof of work, but yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. So the next question may sound trivial, but it's not. So how important is this problem, where we are on fixing it, and what are the operational issues doing this? And I'll start giving the stage to David, who is a CISO.
Yeah, so I'll be the sort of devil's advocate in this. I don't see quantum computing as an issue at all in the foreseeable future.
That's why we brought him to this.
So probably within the next 10 to 15 years, we might see some fairly significant advances. And I think when it does take off, and I do agree that it will take off, it will be very significant, but we're just not at that point yet. And I'm a huge believer in sort of cost-effective practical security. And very few hackers outside of the nation state level are going to be able to afford the infrastructure, the cost, the resources required to implement any type of quantum computing attack. And when you think about it, and I'm only speaking for the financial services world here, when you think about it, if I want to break into a bank, why would I do that? I can break into the customers much more easily. I can do that at scale, and I can get all the money that I really want to get, which is what hackers are doing today, right? So the thought that I need to, as a CISO, be preparing to defend against a quantum level attack, I don't think that's really on the scorecard for me right now.
So I think the message here is our security is such cranky thing that there are many better open doors than...
If I can pay a person $50 to plug in a drive, you know, a thumb drive into a computer inside a bank when they're doing cleaning, why spend $1 billion to try to crack some incredibly technical problem?
So I'll go to John, and if you do consider this a threat, so how urgent it is, or where we are in the timeline, or what's preventing us from progressing in this timeline?
I mean, those points are taken for sure. I think we all, maybe nobody even understands the cost of preparing for quantum computing. It's not just about, because it's not just about, hey, we need to build, you know, software that's going to replace some of our current encryption methods, and NIST. If everybody's familiar with NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology of the U.S., they've actually built quantum-resistant algorithms that are available now. But yeah, I get it. There's a cost for not only just the software aspect of it too, but there's costs from all right, you're building teams that are going to implement these things. You're using hardware and compute capabilities to do very long encryption and decryption. So I totally get that. But, you know, there's two very good examples of us being prepared and not prepared for something. So I think I see a lot of us are old enough to go through a Y2K, right, where we hadn't established, all right, we knew at the year 2000, we had to change all of our software to, very simple, right? We had to change the date of our software to make sure that our systems didn't break. And did anything happen after 2000, Y2K? It didn't, but we spent over $500 billion at the time preparing for this. And so my argument is that we were prepared. We fixed the issue, which is why we didn't see any system malfunctions when 2000 came. Go back just about 5 years ago. We know there's a 100-year flu that comes here. You know, we're prepared for that as humans, but we aren't really prepared because we don't know exactly when that's going to happen. And 5 years ago, I mean, we could argue if we dealt with it well or not, but we certainly remember going through the pandemic, you know, 5 years ago. And I think this is where I'm at with quantum. We don't have a date in mind, and that's what makes it a little bit scary. Humans, we're good with dates. And so some of us have these, you know, Y2Q, where like, hey, the year that quantum comes into fruition, are we prepared for that? And so I think that's just the thing. I think we do need to prepare, and there's steps to do that. We can prepare by, you know, having education on what's going to be impacting our systems. So if we understand the systems that are going to be impacted cryptographically by quantum, at least we have that understanding. We need to understand what are our critical assets that we need to protect. And then if we actually can analyze that, prioritize it, and understand, all right, when something happens, maybe we start today, maybe when quantum really becomes, and we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, maybe that's when we start implementing things. But if we don't have a plan and we just start reacting when quantum finally comes, I think that's what scares me a lot is, hey, we went through this with COVID-19. I want us to be prepared like during the Y2K era when like looking back, Y2K didn't impact us because we were prepared. So that's kind of where
But that's a little bit my point too, is that you have, like Y2K was a very defined date. You knew the exact minute and second that it was going to happen. And so you had a timeline to prepare against. With quantum, from a practical viewpoint, what can I do right now? It's all the work that's being done sort of at the academic and government level, that's probably perfectly fine.
A good handover to Ofir.
Yeah, okay, so David, I find myself in agreement with you, but I will try to do a little spin on it, because we are living in a world where there is already a consensus that we need to be prepared, and we see this in regulatory bodies that are already issuing regulatory statements about how organizations should be prepared. And I agree with you that because of the landscape is difficult to describe in which the threat will be valid, and harvest now and decrypt later becomes like a buzzword for do it now. I think there is a positive side to this. The positive side that migrating a crypto system, which is complex, authentication, key distribution, even random number generators, will expose on the practical cyber aspects a lot of issues that organizations have with their crypto suits today. Like several organizations we have surveyed, and I have surveyed personally in various frameworks and surveys done in Israel and abroad. Once you start asking the question, what is the cipher suit you are using right now, and where is your crypto inventory stored, and are you crypto agile, you received a very poor answer that doesn't only relates to the fact that they can't defend themselves against a potential quantum threat, which we can't describe yet, but also to traditional threats which are now occurring. So I think like the process of becoming ready will expose something which is a niche today. Like the crypto management in organization is a niche, and it will become like a core relevant skill for the organization, and it will expose practical aspects of securing organization as a whole.
Yeah, I think that in general, the argument of harvest now, decrypt later is the weaker argument. It's also not very convincing because it's not necessarily the threat that we all kind of fight against, but the actual time that it will take to replace, and if we want to replace a wallet in a crypto system or authentication methods or modernize systems that are legacy that will be hard to replace, it's just going to be a very, very long process that just like we don't know exactly when this problem is coming, we also don't know to size what's the problem in kind of transforming all our infrastructure. And in large organizations, this is going to be a large transformation.
Yeah, but see the shift in narrative. Like the initial narrative was, okay, we need to prepare for quantum day. And the enhanced narrative we're now talking about is like, let's start modernizing infrastructure in which crypto is a key part of the organization's safety. And it's a bit of a different narrative, but it has a place, I think.
You could do it on the way to modernize everything, but the result is that you need to be in a better place. I want to kind of move to what's the role of regulators and what's the role of vendors in doing this, and also from the CISOs, what will help you kind of adapt this more, kind of what would be on your wish list. So I'll start with Yuval. We have here, by the way, all the things. We have a regulator and a vendor, CISOs. I could be a VC or an R&D, whatever you want. So we have all the kind of different voices. So Yuval.
So the first issue is everything. We start before a few years to release a best practice and raise awareness. Why? Because we need to promote a risk-based approach. As I said, okay, we have the threat, we need to handle it, but we need to do a positive and change management that don't create additional risk to the organization. For example, to change VPN cheaper is not something very easily for many organizations in practice. So we need to promote how to do it in practice. This also includes the promoting of a principle like crypto agility, requiring the tender in the contract, how to work with the vendors, convinced that we need this improvement, because some vendors say to us, okay, this is future issue. Yes, I understand. But to change something in the government, the public sector, for example, even in a legacy environment, SCADA, for example, it takes years. It can take 10, 50 years to change it. And then we can be faced in practice a cyber crime that is using quantum computing, because as you know, many of you know, you can purchase now quantum as a service for many vendors. We have another countries that using quantum computing, and this one, we don't know what they do in practice, so the threat is real. After a few years, a few regulators in the sector, like Yeoh, that provide regulation to the government, initiate the old guidelines to promote, first of all, the inventory of the asset, and then moving to the risk management, and then apply the required steps. But again, it's risk-based approach is not one fit all, and we need to understand that it's a challenge, but you can resolve in practice.
John, what's on your wish list for how can this get done? What do you need from vendor? What do you need from regulators?
Like Dave's points that he talked about, where we talk about, hey, there's a lot of priorities that an organization is going to have, right? And then there's cost efficiency that organizations face, and so I think that's a challenge that any business is going to have. And Dave, you'll probably agree with this too, though. I think CISOs, the chief security officer, they don't stick around that often, right? I mean, it's a job that tends to be around for anywhere from 6 months to maybe 5 years. And I'd say 5 years is a pretty long stint.
That's why they are not worried by the time it arrives.
Right? That's probably a big thing, right? And I think we even see that like politically, right? If you're a congressman or a senator or even a president and your term isn't that long, hey, you're not looking that far into the future. So I think the difference is, though, is how much can we prepare? And we do need to go through that exercise. And, this can be at minimal cost, but understanding, hey, where are we vulnerable? Do we have actually a plan to protect specific assets? And when it happens, can we move quickly so that we're at least reducing the time that we are vulnerable, and we actually can implement things faster? And I think that's the challenge that I'd love to, every CISO and organization to face is hey, is the quantum threat real yet? Here's an interesting thing. So CSA, we do top threats reports on a biannual year. So every 2 years we do a threat report. And go back 3 years ago, and our top 10 threat reports didn't have AI on it. It's never had quantum on it either. And then the one that we did last year, AI was the last threat. Of the top 12 threats, it was 12th. We have a new report coming up this coming year, and I can guarantee you AI is going to be a lot higher on that list too. So it's just a matter of time before quantum, all these new technologies are going to sneak up on us. Are we prepared to just roll things out quickly? Yuval, you mentioned it takes years to roll out modernized encryption. In fact, if we think about AES 256, I mean, that was introduced in 2001. It wasn't even rolled out in Office products from Microsoft until 2013. So it took 12 years to roll out AES 256. If quantum computers come out, in 5 years' time, and it takes us another 10 years to roll things out, it's going to take we're going to be vulnerable for 10 years before doing something like that. Yeah, something like that, right?
But that's assuming that, RSA 248 or AES 256 is vulnerable, right? So you look at RSA 50-bit has been cracked, they say, right? 50-bit. We're at 2048. So what's that scope? Well, how long is that going to take before you get to 2048? I don't know, but I was talking about quantum computing when I was at NSA in the 1990s, and we are now I will be long retired, I believe, before quantum computing is affecting my bank, right?
Ofir, both as a vendor and as a theoretician.
So I will try to refer to the original question. I'm a big believer in the free market, and I believe that what will happen eventually is some vague regulation standard. I'm taking, for example, what NIST is doing today, saying there are suits that are quantum safe. They don't tell you the how specifically to migrate an organization from one state to another. So I believe vendors will eventually create a secure pathway which is manageable. Yeah, so it will happen alone. The big fault I think regulation can do is to do a micromanagement of the process in a way that will. Okay, I will try to phrase it another way. This thing has the potential to ruin a lot of businesses, okay, especially in the financial sector, okay, and forcing regulation, which is super complicated, might create an unmovable standard or unmovable object that you can just never meet. And I think vendors should adapt what is vague today and create an automation system or a secure pathway in their CI/CD or software packages that enables organizations to meet those vague standards and not wait for the regulation to do something. But this is purely from a capitalist point of view.
I think we should also educate the audience. I don't know how many know, but for example, if you want to move to a first, the name post-quantum cryptography is terrible because there is nothing post-quantumy about it. And we also don't know that it will not break on a regular computer because it didn't vet for 40 years. But the right name, kind of quantum agility, crypto agility could be relevant because what we expect is that once we know that something is vulnerable, we will have to replace it. But on the replacement, also some people don't know, for example, if I want to update my TLS, I need to first move to TLS 1.3, and just moving to that level of TLS is a shake in the organization.
Yeah, I think if you as an organization don't have this inventory today or this agility to move, you won't develop it because of quantum. And in my opinion, it should be part of the software package or the capability the vendor provides. Safe migration between protocols. This is not a software upgrade. Okay, the key principle I keep hearing is that, okay, we will migrate to PQC, it will just a software upgrade for the Cisco router. It's not. It's a full level system upgrade. And if the vendor does not support and comply with processes that will make it easy, it will simply won't happen. It will happen on niche areas which are under heavy regulation, and they will invest sums of money that small enterprises cannot.
Yeah, I just want to mention that the fact that you have to upgrade your TLS, just that fact could break your environment as an IT organization, and this is a prerequisite to upgrading, because that's the NIST standard, which is based on the latest TLS. So sometimes the dependency is also making it heavy. So.
Well, and that's a huge part of the problem on the user level, right? So again, at the sort of government and big regulation, and I am very fearful of big regulation around quantum computing because, no offense to regulators, but what regulators know about quantum computing would fit on the head of a pin, right? It's not an area where they really should be playing all that much.
Don't take it personally.
And the real answer then becomes getting the vendors to come up with a better way to make those transitions easy. And by the way, that lack of knowledge is the same on the business side, right? Just key management in general terrifies. I'm an expert in key management, and it terrifies me because nobody in the business world understands it, right? And businesses, the vendor side of businesses, are not good in explaining it and getting sort of that transition protocol in place that makes it for an easy transition. Again, I would rather take the attack, I think, from a quantum computing bad guy than go through a transition from RSA 2048 or AES 256.
Are boards already asking about it, or board teams, are they asking about it, or is it still kind of far?
My board is not asking about it. I do an annual training for them. I did include a very brief discussion about where quantum computing was and what I thought the timeline might be for our business.
I think boards ask for every buzzword that they hear about, right? And so it's back to like, they don't understand it, but that's kind of the point when we need to educate them about it, and then let them understand, hey, what are the real threats? What are the sunk costs by even preparing for something? And then it becomes a business decision, right? It's a risk decision. Is this really going to impact us in the next 5 or 6 years? And what are the costs? And so, it's a business decision.
So there are already regulations that dictating that if you work with certain governments, you have to be kind of mapped to all your assets by the end of next year. I think that some of the people around us are kind of saying, okay, everybody will delay this because nobody is meeting this. That's one of the challenges. So at some point there should be like a stop in the door that says that organizations should be ready if it's important.
Well, and again, I think that's why Y2K worked well, because there was that drop dead date. You had to have it fixed by year 2000 on the dot, or you didn't know what was going to go wrong. And without having that, it puts us in a quandary.
I also asked you, we discussed what was your previous role. I think this is interesting.
I've had a few of them here.
One of the previous CISO roles.
So I was head of I'm the head of security for a medium-sized bank in the United States right now. I was head of security for a much larger bank prior to that. And before that, I was the head of security for the U.S. Internal Revenue Service, the tax division.
So I asked him if it was the same answer if he was in that job too. That was my question in private.
The issue there is a little bit different because that is all the PII in the entire United States plus beyond that.
Yeah. So it's more complicated.
The other helpful item, though, is that they have all the money too.
Yeah.
Right? So it's $7 trillion a year in revenues collected in that can be used to help fight that problem. Whereas at a bank my size, or even at a $1 trillion bank, this is really starting to stretch the aspirations to move into quantum.
So we will summarize now. Everyone has like a statement of summary to end with. So Ofir, you could start.
Yeah, so as I mentioned in the first question, I think there are advantages of becoming quantum safe today, which doesn't relate to quantum at all. They relate to risk management in the organization as a whole. And I will try and add a sentence that I don't think many of the audience will agree, or even in the panel, but in that endeavor and in that narrative, using technologies such as QKD, for example, adds benefit that PQC does not in terms of sensing. And it can be beneficial to mitigate risk other than quantum, like tampering and fiber touching.
You're raising the bar for the next presenter. Yuval.
Okay. Thank you, first of all, of the opportunity. And I'd like to say a few summary words. First of all, it's a risk-based approach that need to handle, because there are many risks to organization, to enterprise, to the government. We need to handle the risk and not compromise our stability in the production itself. Second, we need to understand also that quantum is a threat, but also opportunity to create a new revenue, a new marketplace. In Israel, we have a lot of very innovation startup that offer advanced technology, a very interesting one. So I hope that you can meet them and join this collaboration.
I think the biggest issue I have with quantum computing is not the technology. Technology is always advancing. We always have new problems that we have to deal with, and we come up with new solutions. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take that long.
No, it was a timer for the session to end, actually.
We always come up with new solutions to those problems. So I'm confident that the tech world will come up with that solution, right? So that's sort of going to happen. The real issue I see with quantum is the fact of quantum computing, the threat of it. It doesn't actually have to be there for it to be a real issue for us, because as soon as you start to, again, I'm a cryptologist, right? I'm trained in breaking codes, and actually that's more fun, I think, than making codes, but in trying to break codes, that's where you can get the interesting information. The fact that we might get to a point where we don't trust our cryptography, if I, as a cryptologist, all of a sudden don't trust elliptic curve, we're in trouble, right? That's where I see the real issue right now, is in that sort of threat and us losing confidence in the cryptography we have and trying to go maybe too fast in that transition.
John.
Yeah, it seems like David and I were like butting heads up here, but I really don't think we're that far apart here. I just think like anything, practice. We have to understand how quantum impacts, our world. We need to go through the motions and all right, if this breaks, what's it protecting? If we have critical assets, how do we protect that when something happens? And we also need to learn how to build in quantum applications. I think that's something that our teams don't really understand how to do yet. And do we need to prepare for that? I think we do. Y2Q, the state that we talk about, I know CSA 8 years ago, we put a pretend date, so there's a countdown on our website for 2030. I think we're pushing that back again. But yeah, like being prepared, and I think being prepared doesn't have to be super expensive to do, and so there's methods to do that.
To finish with, just to say, if you're not tracing it, then Google is doing a fabulous job in reducing the number of qubits needed to kind of, not that only qubits matter, but the number of qubits that are needed in order to break RSA. And the chase is chase of governments, so nobody in China is going to tell us when are they ready to break RSA. So it's not going to be in the news, even though there are kind of multiple stages that have to happen for the world to be ready to do this. We are not going to know the date. So the problem here is further along from the date. There would be an effort to hide the date from us, or the fact that the date already passed. So I want to thank all the panelists. Thank you very much for making your way in this winter.